I have found that over the years, practicing, I have gotten a lot better at finding those niche words that describe a concept rather than relying on a more broad word. The more specific the word, the better, as long as it's a word that's used in common parlance. How do we become more articulate? And this is a question that I get asked by lawyers and non-lawyers all the time, because in my opinion, the ability to articulate what is going on in your mind, what's going on in your heart, and to really convey that authentically and with the language that is tailored for the audience that is listening is a superpower. Fundamentally, each of us lives in a silo. We all live in a container of our own experience, and we all see the world through the lens, which is our own consciousness. And so it's very rare that we're able to communicate that to other people in an effective manner. And so the question becomes, how do we develop the skills necessary to properly share with other people what's going on in our world? And how do we make sure that when we speak to people, we have the right word for the right idea? I like to think that I'm a fairly articulate person. I'm certainly not the most articulate person there is. There's people far more articulate than me. But in general, I have a pretty strong vocabulary and a really good understanding of the ability to conceptualize what's going on in my mind and share that with other people. And the thing about being articulate, either verbally or in the written word, is that once you improve one, I have found it improves the other. So I would say that my verbal recall and my verbal articulation is stronger than my written articulation. But the more time I've spent dictating, speaking, thinking, it's also given a benefit there. So this is, I guess, a crash course in being articulate. It's a crash course in what skills I think really feed into that and how you can best develop your own voice. The first thing about being articulate is you have to have your own voice. And the best way to learn what your voice is to kind of absorb how other people see the world and how other people speak and communicate. So the first thing you need to do is research. You should be listening to speakers from all walks of life. You should be listening to TED Talks. You should be reading books. Books are a fantastic way to get the voice of both fictional characters and non-fictional characters. And you should be spending your time delving into the way that people that you admire and respect say things that really resonates with you. Because through sifting through their voice, you're slowly going to develop your own voice, and that articulation is going to give you the power that you need. So the first step to getting really articulate is to get comfortable with and develop your own voice. I think that's a huge key. The second key to getting articulate, and this is one that people don't really want to do, is you've got to develop your vocabulary. There is a real power in knowing the right word that attaches to the right concept. This doesn't mean you have to have the most complex, diabolical vocabulary. You don't need to say inspissation when you're talking about thickening of a solution. There's words that are actually so hyper technical that when you use them, they detract from your message rather than adding to it. But in general, people like it when you have a word that slots comfortably into a place. And that means that you have to get rid of a lot of the filler words. So for example, you've got to start using words that are more descriptive than very or a lot. Because a lot of people say, he went very fast. That's moving quickly or rapidly. And by getting rid of these filler words and starting to rely upon words that are slotted into a concept, you will start to see that you will have to develop your vocabulary to do that. Obviously, there's an advantage to people who have been native speakers. But even myself, when I speak Farsi, which is not my native language, but it's a language that my family speaks, I have found that over the years, practicing, I have gotten a lot better at finding those niche words that describe a concept rather than relying on a more broad word. In general, the more specific the word, the better, as long as it's a word that's used in common parlance. And what I mean by that is it's a word that people generally know. The third thing about being articulate, and this is a simple one, get rid of tautology. What is tautology? Saying things twice. He ran quickly. Well, if you're running, you're moving quickly. You don't have to say he ran quickly. He pondered deeply. Well, pondering is the idea of thinking about things deeply. So I have found that by removing tautologies in my speaking, I've been able to better articulate my ideas in a much more logical, sensible conception. And I think the final tip that I would give is visual words are better than reading words. So what I mean by that is a good visual word is lightning. You see lightning when I say the word lightning. If I use the word imagine, well, imagine is a description word rather than a visual word. thunder is different to noise. And this ability to, I guess, conjure an image that is well known in the culture or the zeitgeist is a really powerful tool that will enable you to strengthen what you're saying and make sure it resonates more. Of course, articulation is a lifelong battle. It's something that you're going to be working on daily and you're going to get better at as you go along. But these are really simple and basic tips that I have found have really helped me become somewhat more articulate.